From our studios in Tokyo, this is NHK Newsline. I'm Ross Mihara. We begin with news from the Middle East. The Islamic group Hamas released 3 more civilian hostages on Saturday, while Israel freed more than 180 Palestinian prisoners. 3 men were released according to the 6-week ceasefire agreement that began on January 19th. 13 Israeli captives have been freed so far. 183 Palestinian prisoners were freed in exchange. Hamas is scheduled to release a total of 33 Israeli hostages in phases. Also, as part of the ceasefire deal, the first group of injured and sick people in Gaza left from the Rafah crossing toward Egypt for medical treatment. Qatar-based broadcaster Al Jazeera reported that 50 people were transferred on Saturday. The Israeli military had closed the Rafah border crossing in May last year. The World Health Organization estimates that up to 14,000 people in Gaza still require medical attention. The WHO is calling for a rapid increase in medical evacuations from Gaza. A former senior official for the U.S. Federal Reserve has been arrested and indicted on charges of conspiring to steal trade secrets for China. 63-year-old John Rogers worked as a senior advisor in the Fed's International Finance Division from 2010 to 2021. He allegedly shared confidential Fed information with his Chinese conspirators who worked for China's intelligence and security apparatus while posing as graduate students. The U.S. Department of Justice alleges that from at least 2018, Rogers sent sensitive information to his personal email account or printed it before traveling to China. Some of the information was about Federal Open Market Committee deliberations and forthcoming announcements. The department says Rogers met with his conspirators in hotel rooms in China under the guise of teaching classes where he passed on the information. It says in 2023, he was paid approximately $450,000 as a part-time professor at a Chinese university. U.S. President Donald Trump has met with the CEO of semiconductor giant NVIDIA. The two reportedly discussed restrictions around AI chip exports, among other issues. The discussion between Trump and Jensen Huang on Friday was their first and was later described by the president as a good meeting. NVIDIA told NHK the two agreed on the importance of strengthening U.S. technology and AI leadership. The previous administration of President Joe Biden limited exports of advanced chips to prevent China and other countries from using them for military purposes. But NVIDIA has argued that new export rules proposed last month by the Biden administration are too strict and is urging the Trump administration to review them. Meanwhile, media reports say U.S. officials are investigating whether Chinese generative AI startup DeepSeek bought NVIDIA chips through third parties to avoid U.S. restrictions. Amid intensifying competition with China over AI and semiconductor technology, there are calls for the U.S. for tighter export controls. Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro has held talks with a special envoy sent by the U.S. president. This comes despite the fact Washington refuses to recognize Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate president. Maduro met with Richard Grenell in the capital Caracas. The Venezuelan government says the two discussed a deal on migrants and agreed on the need to change the direction of bilateral relations. The White House press secretary said Grenell was dispatched to discuss repatriation of Venezuelan gang members detained in the U.S. and the return of U.S. detainees in Venezuela. Later in the day, Grenell said on social media that he was heading back to the United States with 6 American detainees. Attention is focused on whether the dispatch of the special envoy will change the relationship between the two countries. U.S. President Trump looks set to carry through on his pledge to impose a wide range of tariffs on several countries, including America's 2 closest neighbors. The White House press secretary said Trump plans to implement the measures on Saturday. The president has threatened to impose 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada and additional 10% tariffs on imports from China.
Mr. President, is there anything China, Canada, and Mexico can do tonight to forestall your implementation of tariffs tomorrow?
No, nothing. Not right now, no.
Trump suggested his administration will impose additional import tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. He didn't say when these would start, nor what countries would be targeted. The president also said tariffs on oil and gas will start around February 18th, and semiconductors and pharmaceuticals will also be targeted. Trump said the tariffs are going to make the U.S. very rich and very strong.